Boiler up, Brags in the stands. Let's go.
No quitting this thing. Get next year. Let's go.
With the Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000. Don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What if I told you 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought?
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
You are ridiculous.
Oh, we are. It's Brags in the Stands, and we are live. We are reacting to the brackets that are about to be revealed here on CBS. The Big Ten tournament is just about to wrap up. The Illinois Fighting Illini look like they're about to take it home and win the Big Ten tournament. Certainly look like a national champion type of team. So this is Brags in the Stands. I am your host, Gregory Braggs Jr. The March to Madness has begun. We're certainly excited today to see what the brackets are, of course, because, Purdue Boilermakers, who I obviously do a lot of coverage to here on Brags in the Stands, are heading to the tournament. So we're going to find out what their seed is and who they're going to play and where they're going to play in just a few moments. So have a lot of special guests here today that cover the Purdue Boilermakers and do a lot of different stuff on the social medias, Twitter and everything else. So we're going to get to those people right now, introduce them here while this Big Ten tournament is wrapping up before we get to the bracket reveal. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guy, Ben Hudzinski here. ISC Purdue. He was first here in the backstage. We've been bullshit about this game. It's been a wild here finish for yes, you can swear here if you want. You don't have to, but you can.
That's good to know.
We'll try to keep it PG because I know some of the kids do watch, but as Illinois wraps up, what are your reactions here to what we've seen so far in the Big Ten tournament?
It's been pretty interesting, to be honest with you. The team that has impressed me the most, to be honest with you, is Ohio State. Ohio State went from losing 4 out of the last 5 and on a real bad slide to all of a sudden being world beaters and now getting to the Big Ten championship game here. And, we're in overtime here now, but it's been a heck of a showing for them.
Yeah, certainly has. And Purdue, gave them their best effort in the second half. That was a tough one. Obviously, you do a lot of coverage for ISC Purdue, so with Ohio State, who just now fell short, 91-88 is the final score as Illinois celebrates midcourt in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. You mentioned Ohio State impressed you the most. Obviously, Illinois certainly was really impressive, but Ohio State certainly showed that they're probably better than a lot of people give them credit for. They had 8 losses. But how does that in a Purdue sense, since you are, obviously we're going to be doing a lot of Purdue-centric talk here, how do you think that applies to Purdue? They had a tough showing in the first half, but in the second half, they took their best haymaker and threw one back at them. What does that say about the young baby Boilers here?
What is the old adage? You're young, you don't really know any better. I don't know what the exact terminology would be, but maybe these young baby Boilers or whatever you want to call them don't realize that some of these teams are supposed to be too good for them to compete with. You've got Ohio State, who, even though they were sliding a little bit, they're in a situation now where they are a presumed 2 seed. Well, I guess we'll know here in a few minutes here. But anywhere from a 1 or a 2 seed, they're basically the same thing. If you can battle and go wire to wire with a 2 seed, you can battle with just about anybody in the country. And that's basically what we dealt with here the other day was Purdue. We worked, I don't really like to say we. I'm not on Purdue, but I'm a Purdue fan. Purdue battled hard, even though they almost got beaten in the first half. But they worked their tails off. They had that grit, and they came back in that second half. Almost took them down if they would have been able to hit one more free throw, I guess. Yeah,
certainly. They had a few free throws they missed that certainly might have turned the tide in that game. Sure. We have a very special, listener in the listening, viewing audience. Bo Borowski wants to know, Ben, who's your favorite ref?
It's sure as heck not Bo Borowski. I'll tell you. Even though the presence on Twitter is one of my favorite Twitter folks to interact with, but to be honest with you, my favorite referee would be Gene Steratore, even though he doesn't do it anymore. He was always right there on the he was really positive and I don't remember too much haywire calls coming from Gene Steratore.
And he did football too, so
yeah, in the NFL, cover your Bears here on occasion, make sure that they're doing what they need to do.
So we got our guy Chubbs82 in the chat. Huge Illini fan. Also a very loyal listener here to Brags and Stans. He's got a sharp tongue, but he's got a big heart, and he's a good guy. And I'm happy for you, Chubbs. Congratulations on the Fighting Illini Big Ten champs. They certainly showed their worth this whole tournament. They have a lot of talent. Curbelo was really balling out for you guys. Really impressed me, aside from the obvious, Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn. Those guys can certainly play as well. So, but I just thought Curbelo really gave you guys another edge that when you guys get to the tournament, it's going to take you a long way. Guards certainly win when it comes to that. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, Ben. I'm going to move on here to our other guests, try to introduce them as fast as we can, because I'm not sure how fast we're going to get into the reveal of these brackets. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my guy, David Kovich of, again, ISC Purdue. That's going to be a running theme you see here on Brags and Stans. Certainly been buddying up with these guys the last couple years as I've been roaming around Mackey Arena, and the ISC Purdue guys are as nice and as friendly as anybody you're going to find out there, and they do great coverage for the Purdue Boilermakers across the board, and certainly, of course, for the Boilermakers basketball. So welcome, Dave Kovich. How are we doing today? What are your thoughts after everything we've seen here today and this weekend?
Good to go. Coming to you live from Asheville, North Carolina, Home 2 Suites. Little plug there, maybe future sponsorship.
There you go.
Main thing I'm looking, though, Illinois, I think we might be painting the town orange come the month of March into April in Indianapolis. Impressive effort, lots of tools. Ohio State, great gritty effort, but one of those teams that 4 games, 4 days, is there going to be an impact on this team come Friday, Saturday, then Sunday, Monday? A little bit of an unknown, but anyways, thanks for having me. Looks like we're going to be getting started here real quick.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Gonzaga, they're showing everybody here. They're, I think, about to release the 1 seeds, as Gonzaga is obviously announced as one of the 1 seeds. So we'll try to keep this as free-flowing as we go. But you're certainly right. Illinois looks like the real deal. It'll be interesting. They're going to Gonzaga will take on Appalachian State as the first game here revealed. So as I'm saying to the listeners here, this is I wanted to try to bring on as many different people to get in on this conversation as we react to what Purdue is ultimately going to have to be tested on the road here in the March Madness tournament. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our next guest and try to get everybody introduced so we can get to the full conversation here. And the next guy I'm bringing on is a guy that is someone that I've already had on previous podcasts. We talked about his journey to the Game 7 World Series for our Chicago Cubs, and it was certainly a cool story in that. So welcome back. That was Shy Fans, and now it's your first appearance here on Brags in the Stands. How are we doing, Corey Ross?
We're doing good. We're getting close here. We're getting close.
Yep,
First
we just had Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma, Missouri. Second game announced, 8 versus 9 seed, and now Creighton, the 5 seed. So, yeah, it's certainly moving fast. UC Santa Barbara will take on Creighton, a team that maybe some teams people thought Purdue would take on in the first round. Mm-hmm. So, quickly, Corey, before we start to see the rest of this bracket, revealed, what were your thoughts here on the weekend and what you've seen overall from our Purdue Boilermakers?
I'm with Dave here. I woke up this morning and I laying in bed. I was thinking, I think Illinois has the athleticism on their squad to face a super athletic squad like Gonzaga or Baylor. And Illinois is playing great basketball right now. They're playing really good basketball right now. Like Dave said, they got a lot of tools. I think Curbelo's kind of a star in the making. I've been on him for a while. I think, Coburn, there are very few guys in the country that can defend a guy like Coburn. The guys that can, I think, are pretty much exclusively in the Big Ten. So I think they got a lot going for them. And Ayo, he didn't do it today, but Ayo's a great closer.
Yep.
And I think he's got a really great case for National Player of the Year. Even though he didn't win Big Ten Player of the Year, And, another controversial thing, Michigan winning the Big Ten title without Illinois getting any due in the regular season. So now they're getting their just desserts here, winning the tournament. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Michigan if Livers is able to go.
Yeah, that's a tough blow.
Yeah, he's the most integral cog to that entire Michigan squad. So we'll see if he could get things going here before the weekend. But
so here's the first Big Ten team revealed to the bracket. As we move along quickly in the West region on Saturday, Iowa, the 2 seed, announced. Andy Katz was yelling to some Iowa fans yesterday in the crowd. He felt they were a 2 seed, and there they are taking on Grand Canyon, the 15 seed. So that'll certainly be interesting. I believe, is Grand Canyon the school that's coached by Dan Marley, I believe? Formerly, okay. That I've seen some highlights of that school. It looks like a fun school to be at. So waiting on Purdue to be revealed here. It certainly is going to happen quickly. I'm going to try to pull up graphics of the brackets as they get revealed, but obviously everybody that's watching along is seeing the same things we're seeing. So it's really going to be more conversation based and driven here as far as what we're seeing to and reacting to. And for those that watch later on, because I'm sure many will watch after the show has already concluded, obviously they'll have a bracket there right in front of them. So, so but while it goes to commercial break and we wait for some of the other things to come out, obviously, like I said, you guys all are from ISC Purdue. You guys do great work there. So we'll keep it to the Purdue talk. I know my guy Chubbs wants to go all in on his boys for the Fighting Illini, and we certainly will get to them as soon as they're announced as where they're playing. But in a Purdue sense, what are your guys' predictions as far as what their seed will be? Where do you guys think they'll play? Those are my 2 biggest thoughts here before it gets announced. And I guess I'll start with you, Ben, because that's something I'm terrible at when I have multiple guests on. So don't be afraid to just jump in when I throw a rhetorical question out there, because I sometimes forget to direct it. So we'll start with you on that one, Ben.
All right, well, we can start with me all you want. Here's my philosophy on the big dance. There is that added caveat whenever you're seeding something that your conference tournament or your conference teams or your fellow pros can't get hit on your schedule until the what is it, Sweet 16 round or something like that. So a lot of times when you're getting lower into the seed count, which is unfortunately, even though Purdue finished 4th in the conference, they still are one of the lower seeds that are going to come from the Big Ten because there's so many of them. So you're going to have 2 1 seeds, you're going to have 2 seeds, and point where you can't reach another Big Ten team. I could see Purdue getting into that 4 seed range, potentially even a 5 seed if they want to undervalue Purdue, which has happened many times in the past few invites to the Big Dance. But I really think right now they should be on the 4 line, and we'll see how that goes forward.
Yeah, a lot of bracketologists, and maybe later on Brian Tonsoni from Delphi Bracketology, they have them slated as a 4 seed. And I think after the Ohio State game, if they had lost by 20, maybe you could make an argument that you dropped them to the 5 seed. But I think after they came back 18 down, take them to overtime, and then you see the effort Ohio State put in this weekend. Do you guys think, Corey, do you think that it's a deserving spot for Purdue at the 4 seed?
Yeah, I'm thinking 4. I'm thinking a 4 is definitely possible. Definitely. I think there's almost no doubt that they're going to be a 4 at this point. Right. I think that's pretty much the consensus so far. The question, I think the big question is who's going to be the 13 seed with them, right? There's some kind of scary 13 seed types out there. Ohio's a good team. Purdue played at Ohio last year. Part of some crazy wacky deal where Ohio football came to Purdue and the basketball team made the return trip to Ohio. But they got that Preston kid who's been he's been unreal. There was a Big Ten MAC matchup, I think, against Ohio this year where he just went crazy. So he's definitely Ohio's definitely a school I'm looking out for. not probably the most favorable matchup, but people always say you gotta beat the best. You gotta beat the best sometime, right? In this tournament. So
sure.
At the end of the day, it's a little moot.
Sure. So, and as I'm trying to kind of maneuver through, I'm doing my best, for the listeners to try to move the cameras around and, put people off screen and on screen to try to give everybody kind of idea of who's talking and stuff. So I apologize if I mute your mic. I did mute a couple there while we were doing that, but we have a question in the chat from Purdue Cannon, and he wants to know which player are you guys expecting to level up during the tournament?
There's the Boilers. There's the Boilers.
Did we get the boy? Okay,
the Boilers.
The Boilers have been revealed, and they play Friday. Well, we don't know the time, but they play on Friday in the South region versus North Texas. There it is. I do not know where the South region is located as far as venue is concerned, but there it is. Purdue, a 4 seed. That is exciting stuff there. You guys' thoughts. I'll start with you, Dave.
Just looking at it quickly, we've got Purdue the 4 against North Texas the 13. We're just going to jump right to it. We're going to take care of business. 5 seed Nova, great draw. Feel bad for their point guard who's lost for the season. They're trending down. We're going to be in the Baylor 1 seed up in the top quadrant. You're going to have to watch out for that North Carolina team. Baylor really hasn't been themselves since they came back. Happy with the draw. Purdue getting to the second weekend. I think great draw for them.
That is a great draw. And as you pointed out, Villanova as the 5 seed. And that is a team that these guys have seen before. The last time Purdue made a run as they took them down 87-61, 3 versus a 6 seed. And you see there, Sasha, Aaron Wheeler, Travion, and Eric Hunter on the bench, being taking on a different role. And now they're going to be the leaders here while the freshmen try to do their thing. As the rest of this bracket kind of unfolds, let's continue to react to what we're seeing here with Purdue versus North Texas in the first round. I'll move it back to you, Ben. What are your thoughts with it?
Well, I kind of echo what Dave was saying here. It looks like Purdue should be able to take care of business in the first round. Like I've said all season, playing in the Big Ten, you're playing a whole bunch of teams that are higher than average teams in the nation. So you're getting your meat grinder on. You're making sure that you're always playing some of the best teams in the nation. And with that in mind, you do run into Villanova, and like Dave said, they are missing some pieces, some important pieces, but they are coached by what's their coach's name? I can't think of it right now.
One of the other guys want to help out on this one?
Jay Wright.
Yeah.
Jay Wright.
Right. That's right. A very handsome, gentleman that my mother has had a crush on for years because, anyways, he's an excellent coach. He's had success. Obviously, he's familiar with Matt Painter. He's familiar with the Purdue system. Now you're getting to a point where if they're missing pieces, how does it match up personnel-wise? And Purdue, this is the most athletic Purdue team from top to bottom that I've seen in a long time. Not up there with the Glenn Robinson type era or the Baby Boiler type era, but they're there. They can do it, and they should be able to take care of business. But then again, good coaches, bigger conference, people who've had success, who knows what can happen.
Yeah, they certainly have a lot of athleticism and talent on this team. Jaden Ivey, here's a little pregame show off of that kind of athleticism that is unique to what you see in a Purdue Boilermaker uniform. And then he's showing off the 3-point skill. I really admire how much he's able to kind of hone in the clutch moments, because he certainly has a unique delivery and the way he shoots. So maybe he doesn't give you as much consistency as maybe a Newman or a Stefanovic from your shot. But when the game's on the line, it seems like this kid's got it. Corey, what are your thoughts here as far as the journey that it looks like Purdue's going to take? I don't know if we know the venue yet, as Dave is helping us out with some of the different seedings here. We've got the 1s and the 2, the South seed. We got Baylor, Ohio State, Arkansas, and Purdue. And I love that Ohio State's there at that 2 seed. I definitely think that is a team that I'd love to see again as a Purdue fan. That's a team they can take on. They've proven it, obviously, beating them 2 out of 3 games. So, Corey, what are your thoughts here with the road to Indianapolis here? You know, the whole road's in Indianapolis. What do you think of the road itself?
Well, you know, first game, North Texas, I got their stats pulled up if we want to take a look at them. Look
Absolutely.
like they're a predominantly good defensive team. You know, they're 16th in field goals allowed per game, 21.7. They're 10th in points at 61.2. But on the offensive side, you know, they're 214th, only averaging 69 points a game. They're pretty, they foul a lot. So it seems like it's going to be a scrappy game, just based off of, you know, some quick view at some stats. So that'll be interesting. You know, that's kind of something Purdue's used to, playing in the Big Ten, scrappy defensive teams. You know, that's Wisconsin. That stat line that I just read, if you told me that was Wisconsin's, I would believe you in a heartbeat. So that's going to be a good opening match for the Boilers if they make it on and Nova advances. You know, I think it's Gillespie that's out for the season, and I think they had someone else go down with a potential minor injury. So I think Nova could be looking at going into the tournament without two key guys. So that's interesting.
You almost don't want to jinx it, but you couldn't have drawn up a better draw for Purdue, depending on what this venue is. When you consider Baylor, as Dave pointed out, hasn't been the same since they came back from their COVID. Then you consider, you know, West Texas. I'm not sure of the 13 seeds that scared you, Corey. Was North Texas one of those teams?
I wasn't looking that way. It was really Ohio. There was another team. Abilene Christian was another highly regarded team that's got like top-notch defense, like clamp down total defense that I was looking at, watching out for it. But North Texas, you know, like I said, it's similar. It seems like it's similar to a Big Ten matchup, just from the team stats of how they come about it. So that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to watch.
So we just see here Loyola Chicago announced in the Midwest region as an 8 seed. They'll play on Friday. Illinois will take on Drexel as a 1 seed, also playing on Friday. So a potential Illinois versus Loyola Chicago in the second round. Smart thinking there by the bracket makers there. That'll be interesting, certainly a matchup I hope to see. That'll be cool. So it's moving along here. Tennessee versus Oregon State as the 5 versus 12 seed. So Purdue will play on Friday, and then if they win, they'll play on Sunday. This is a new way of the tournament shaping out as far as days. They don't start on Thursday. Kind of a little irritating, but you know, it is what it is. You know, it's 4 days either way, but I like the old Thursday through Sunday. So I don't know, you know, so there have not been any announcements as far as where these venues are going to be played, correct?
No.
As far as what region is attached?
I'll go into some of that detail during the commercial. I'll hit that topic.
Yeah, of course, because we're flying along here. If you have, you know, the bracket show on, which is on CBS, anybody can view it. There might be another one on a different channel, but flowing along on CBS, San Diego State is the 6th seed. So we're just about to round out the rest of the bracket here. The final 3 matchups here are about to take shape, and then we will have, I believe, the full bracket. So San Diego State takes on 11 seed Syracuse. So that'll be another interesting matchup.
Syracuse is one of those teams. I think it was 2018. They went on a run from the first 4. Actually, I think they went from the first 4 all the way to the Sweet 16 as an 11th seed. So I think that Boeheim zone gives a lot of teams that aren't like used to it, don't have the time to prepare for it, a lot of trouble in March. So that's a trendy pick for me.
So Chubbs isn't worried about anybody Illinois plays, rightfully so. He believes they're going to take Drexel by 30. You guys taking the over or the under on that one? Probably the over.
Yeah, I think Illinois is going to be able to name their score against Drexel. You know, as that 1 seed, I don't foresee them getting picked off by a 16 seed, not this year. That's a tough bet in any circumstance. But Illinois is playing some excellent basketball right now. Obviously, they're not infallible, but in my opinion, right now, Illinois is playing the best basketball in the country, and they have the momentum on their side. They're moving forward. Iowa's back. He's playing well. On paper, in my opinion, at the beginning of this year, Illinois is the best team in the nation.
Yeah.
They struggled a little bit throughout the year, but right now they're peaking when it matters. So that's a really big deal for Illinois fans.
Yeah, I caught Kofi playing soccer before the game yesterday. It was pretty good. And then we've got in the Midwest region, Illinois, the 1 seed, Houston, the 2 seed, West Virginia, the 3, and Oklahoma State, the 4 seed with Cade Cunningham. So it'll be interesting. Houston, a 2 seed, taking on Cleveland State. And the Rutgers, they had just taken it off the screen, had just been announced who they were playing. And I believe that's the entire bracket. I'm going to do my best to try to find the graphics so we can pull them up and actually look at them here on the show. So, we can just kind of continue to react to this. It's exciting stuff. I'm excited to find out where they're playing and what time. Do you guys have any intentions on attending these games?
So let's talk timing and location for the first weekend. So first and second round, one big change for fans this year. All first and second round games are single session games only. These tickets went up on Ticketmaster pre-sales last week. So for everyone that's already bought tickets, currently you do not know who is playing. You'll only see one game. So let's talk about the large venues. Large venues, obviously Lucas Oil with 2 courts will have the largest crowds. Bankers Life will be second. And then the Coliseum, Hinkle, and Mackey will have limited tickets. Assembly Hall is the one location where currently there's been no public tickets for sale. It looks to be friends and family due to the county restrictions. So for the fans looking to go see a game, and ultimately the teams will it'll be decided tonight. I would say within the next hour or two, they will disclose both the locations and times of the first games. My opinion from the committee standpoint, we're in the Midwest. We have Big Ten. We have Purdue, the lone Indiana team.
Yep.
And then you've got a few other maybe fan bases that will travel. I really look to see in Illinois at Lucas Oil or Bankers Life. I think Purdue's going to potentially fit in that criteria as well. We do know Purdue cannot play at Mackey, so Purdue will not be there. The worst case scenario would be for Purdue to play in Assembly Hall with their limited fans. Purdue fans would be shut out. I don't think the committee's going to do that. I think they're going to want to see, especially Lucas Oil with the high 600 level seats and the vantage points, they want to try and get as many butts in those seats. I think there was good news from a standpoint of Big Ten tournament went without a hitch from a health standpoint. I was able to attend Friday. It was good to see you, Greg. And I know you attended Saturday, but things went well. Overall protocols, they check your temperature before you go in. Lower seats, I would say, from 100, 200, 300 level, as best as you could expect being in a dome. Not bad. Greg, did you have any chance to get up to the 600 level?
I didn't. I was down low for both games. As I'm efforting a little bit. That's the picture Dave took of us with. What is that thing you got? It's not a selfie stick. It's a little more intense to that. What is that?
It's an Insta360. It's got a lens on each side, great for wide shots and angles and whatnot. So with that, we've got the last region being announced right now. So we're going to know what bubble teams are out of it.
And I'm going to mute up because there's a little bit of feedback because I'm doing a little production work on my phone, adding the graphics to the regions we have already. So I'm going to mute up, and you guys feel free to kick it around for a second. And like I said, this is the beta test March Madness reveal show. So bear with us to the loyal viewers. We're doing our best here to provide some fun coverage.
Someone on Twitter said that the committee's really hoping for that Illinois Loyola storyline and then the Illinois Oklahoma State storyline the next day. So they're trying to make Illinois have that crazy story, because I think the committee sees what a lot of us are seeing, is that Illinois is peaking at the right time. Michigan, that last one seed.
It's going to be really interesting here for the first 4 game. These are going to be your last 2 bubble teams that get disclosed. Haven't seen Michigan State yet. Also, Maryland is going to be in here somewhere as well.
It's pretty interesting, and they're going to be seeded about the same. So that's going to be tough, because oftentimes those middle seeds play each other in early rounds. So we might see one of these guys fall off the bracket. It's going to be interesting.
LSU 8 seed, same side as Michigan. They took Bama to the wire today. They're looking pretty good. If Michigan, if Livers is out, that could be an interesting potential upset. They got St. Bonaventure. That's a team that's they're a pretty good squad. So that'll be an interesting one coming out of the A-10. They got a lot of swagger. They were going at it when they won today.
So LSU, from a pace standpoint, they're just going to run up and down the court. So the loss of Livers is definitely huge for Michigan.
So I got a few of these here. I got this guy's tweeting out some of them here. So we've got some of them pulled up. Let me see which ones we got here. We got Baylor, and here is the Purdue region. We've got Baylor and Hartford, North Carolina, Wisconsin as the 8-9 seed, and then Villanova, Winthrop in the 5-12 seed, which normally is the big upset game. The 5-12 matchup is always interesting, but last few years, maybe not as much. 13 seeds have actually been kind of dangerous lately. And so we certainly can't take anything for granted, but there you see Purdue as the 4 seed taking on North Texas. And then the bottom side of that bracket, I believe no, that's not it. See, like I said, I'm trying to find this stuff, and I guess I pulled up the wrong ones. Gosh,
all right, from a bubble perspective, the last 6 seed is BYU. This 11 seed could be the first 4 game. And CBS with the drum roll. Michigan State and UCLA are your last 2 teams in. So BYU will play the winner of Michigan State, UCLA. For those of you joining in that have tickets at Mackey Arena, there is a potential with that first 4 game at 8:30 on Thursday. That could be Michigan State against UCLA.
Wow.
Wow.
No, go ahead. Your reaction to that, because that's going to be, what do you think Mackey will be like? It'll be a bunch of Purdue fans rooting on UCLA.
That's what I would imagine. And this is just such a strange year that you're going to get a circumstance where Mackey Arena, hosting an NCAA game, is going to get a Big Ten school and one of the most highly rated blue blood programs, 2 of them, playing each other. Purdue nowhere to be seen in that circumstance, but I think it's going to be really exciting. If you have that opportunity to go see that game, that is a strange piece of college basketball history that you're going to be able to witness.
And for everybody out there, Assembly Hall will also be hosting the other first 4 game. So later tonight, when locations and times are announced, that will confirm it.
All right, so we are is that the entire bracket? We got one more game to be announced here. And it is the East. Yeah, Alabama is the 2 seed. I don't know if you guys are a little ahead of me. So here we go. So here is the bottom side of the Purdue bracket, because I didn't have that correct. Texas
Fighting
Tech.
Rick Pitino's against Alabama. Abilene Christian got Texas. That's probably –
be interesting to see how many 5-second calls there are in that Iona game that go against Rick.
So there it is. 9, as I have a little feedback, 9 Big Ten schools. What are you guys' thoughts with that?
That's pretty impressive. Everybody knew throughout this year that the Big Ten was the conference that needed to, or that was the strongest out there. And to have 9, that's an incredible number. And I think that it just goes to show you how tough and how much of a gauntlet the Big Ten was.
They're showing the first 4 out. Louisville. Don't forget, these are teams on standby, right? I think Virginia got the go ahead, I think, to go into the bubble. I think
They play Ohio they were in the first bracket. So with Louisville out, no Kentucky, I'm pretty confident in saying
and Western Kentucky lost.
I don't believe the state of Kentucky is represented. That's a first for a really long time.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow. So there it is. First four out. Ole Miss, St. Louis, Colorado State, and Louisville. Last four in. Michigan State, UCLA, Wichita State, and then Drake at 25-4. A very interesting team from my behalf because, and obviously Ben's two were Northwest Indiana guys, and they like their entire team is Maryville Pirates. So we've got the West seeds, we got the South seeds there as Dave is holding them up, doing his penmanship. He's got good handwriting. I've got chicken scratch handwriting. Michigan State, Alabama, Texas, and FSU round out the final top four seeds. So certainly interesting. Still more to be revealed as far as where and when. And of course, we know Chubbs believes the only one that matters is Illinois. And Drew Amsler in the house. And I guess Drew Amsler, who's from Texas, his grandfather played for the Chicago Bears. Marty Amsler, way back when in the Gale Sayers days, I guess is a man of North Texas. So looks like we got a little bit of a rivalry. Maybe I'll have to bring you on the show, Drew, next week, and we can battle it out. That's right. Maybe you have a pizza bet, a big pizza too, because I finally can make a bet that I feel good about, you know? So Chubbs is kind of backtracking here a little bit too, guys, because he, has been telling me for weeks. First, he told me for months that Purdue wasn't going to make the tournament. Now that he's been completely wrong on that, he's moved on to they were going to lose the first game of the Big Ten tournament and the first game. He said one and done in both tournaments. And that it ended up getting one of those right. And so then I tried to jump at him and bet on the second tournament. And he won't do it. Now he's like, let me see who they play. He's coming up with all these excuses. So now he wants to do a pizza bet on the Sweet 16. And I'm willing to take it. I think Purdue is getting there, and I don't want to jinx it. I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious, but I do believe they have all the talent and the right formula for a team that can take that run. And now that they have secured that 4 seed and the road they take, I do believe the Sweet 16 is within their grasp. Do you guys think that they can get there here this year, even as young as they are, with no seniors and 5 freshmen on this team? And I'll start with you, Corey.
I think the sky's the limit with this squad. The ceiling, they don't know where the ceiling is for this team because they are so young, and they have guys. They have tons of guys that can go off any game. You got Brendan Newman, who's been cold lately, but he went off for 29 against Minnesota. You got Edey, who's coming on strong. You got Trevion, who pretty much brought the Boilers back into the entire game against Ohio State. So I think they're really a Swiss Army knife team. So it's a tough out when a team can beat you so many different ways, and they're well coached, and you don't know what you don't know when you're young. So they're gonna go for it.
All right, so I'll start pulling up these brackets now that I have them in, and I'll kind of let you guys give us your thoughts, and I'll try to label them so I don't forget what they are, but we'll just run through these here, and we've got Michigan, I believe I just loaded, and let me do this here. And what are your guys' thoughts here, taking a look at Michigan's journey?
So Livers obviously is the big question. From a actual basketball standpoint, I'm going to see them playing Texas Southern. There's been actually some good things coming out of that school this year. Maybe a little bit, not overly surprised at the 16th seed, but LSU, their tempo and pace, I think Michigan would have to be on it. So I think there's a little bit of a minefield there. Getting down to the bottom there with Alabama, great coaching job there. Obviously had a great season. We got our Big Ten team there, Maryland, and everyone's wanting to reference Mr. Booknight with UConn trying to pull a Kemba. Guy has a great talent. It'll be interesting to see how he does. and then just rounding out that top area for Purdue fans that do have tickets at Mackey. I do hope for those people that they do get that Michigan State UCLA game. Just from a historical perspective, everything with Wooden, I think CBS has kind of written in that storyline, and that'll be confirmed later tonight.
Definitely agree. I think Michigan's got a tough road. Last week they were looking good. Now they're kind of on uneasy waters. Georgetown, you got Patrick Ewing, you got Georgetown making that big run. They had to have been pretty low on the at-large bid list. Haven't seen a lot of Colorado, Florida State. That's a well-coached squad. They're always good. I don't know how many guys they lost last year. At least 2, maybe 3. So they're probably a young squad. You're young at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, you got a whole year of experience under your belt. So that's a team to watch out. BYU looked good against Gonzaga. Watching old Purdue Boilermaker Matt Harms playing for BYU. That'll be an interesting game. Whichever team comes out of that will be interesting. Abilene Christian, that's that good defensive team I was saying before, but Texas, they're tall, athletic. Shaka Smart's got a good history in the tournament for the most part. So it'll be interesting.
All right,
Ben, hit us with your Illinois Drexler hot takes.
I tell you what, again, I think Illinois chooses hits its own score there, whatever they want to do. I think it's going to be really interesting what happens with Rutgers and Clemson. If you take a look at what we have on here right now, Clemson, obviously Purdue has a history against them, didn't fare so well. But we have a situation where Rutgers hit and miss. Sometimes they play really well, sometimes they don't play as well. And you're in a certain circumstance here where their athletes for Rutgers that we're familiar with, we've seen them, they defeated the Boilermakers. We watched it with our own eyes. And, both of those teams, they are pretty evenly matched. That could really be an interesting matchup in that section there.
100%. As I'm trying to get these labeled, make sure I'm doing all this right. So I think I got it, though. I got to let go of it. See, this is what happens when I start trying to control everything. But we've got these regions. So, and then I got double Illinois. That was my problem. I'm looking at this thing like, what is this? But I'm taking it out now. So here we go. And then we've got this final region here, Gonzaga at my top, the West region. You got Virginia versus Ohio. I was really hoping Purdue could cross paths with Virginia again, but unfortunately they are not going to be there. And I just thought, we already took them to them at Mackey. Why not take it to them one more time for the good revenge that they deserve? But
Purdue had to be in the path of Virginia, Tennessee, or Villanova. There was no way that they were going to avoid all 3 of those for recent matchups in the tournament. There was no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to your point, because now the biggest thing I'm concerned about is where they're playing. I see a lot of humor in the idea of them playing at Assembly Hall. I would think that would have to be Archie Miller's nail in his coffin for IU to not be playing in the tournament and then Purdue to be playing on their home court. I mean, but to your point, maybe playing at Bankers Life or Lucas Oil will be able to field them more ticket opportunities. So I certainly hope that's the case. So it's an easier path for old Bragsy to get in the stands. So, do you guys have predictions on where you think they'll play? I've never been to Hinkle, so I wouldn't, half mind that. But, as I said, tickets are limited, so it's not a for sure thing. What are your predictions on where you think they'll play? I'll start with you, Dave. Or go ahead, Ben. You got it, Ben?
Go ahead, Dave. It's all good.
Dave's up.
So while you're talking location, I think the ultimate coach that needs to be in the Assembly Hall arena coaching his 2:15 game is Houston and Calvin Sampson back home again in Indiana.
Absolutely.
Bring them back. Absolutely. Look at what he's done there at Houston. That's pretty impressive as a 2 seed. Never would have thought. So the first 4 scheduled games are on Thursday. Coverage begins at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. You've got Appalachian State. Let me rewind this. I don't. Let me see what times they got here. I don't think they got times, but Drake versus Wichita State, UCLA, Michigan State, Texas Southern, Mount St. Mary's. So yeah, man, I'd really like to go see the Drake game personally. I know everybody is going to gun for Michigan State, UCLA with all that history behind that. But
so from a timing standpoint, the 2 16 seeds will play the 5 o'clock game. So that's your Norfolk State and App State. And then also Mount St. Mary's, Texas Southern. As a reminder, locations are Mackey Arena and Assembly Hall. Limited tickets at Assembly Hall. Really only friends and family. Got to go through the team. And then your 8:30 game, that's where you get your Michigan State, UCLA, and your Wichita State Drake. So even if the UCLA Michigan State storyline doesn't end up at Mackey, fans there still would see a great game with Wichita State and Drake.
Do you think it'll be predominantly Purdue students? I mean, I know it's a hot ticket, maybe even somewhat expensive depending on where you're getting it from. What kind of a crowd are you going to expect at Mackey Arena, considering they have not been allowed to go to games all season long?
The people that I do know that already have their mobile tickets in hand are both a combination of season ticket holders, current Purdue students, and then people that live in the area that know that they would be able to attend the game. So it's going to be people, with an affiliation to Purdue. It would be interesting to see which side they take if it were to be Michigan State, UCLA on the Mackey Arena.
What would you guys do? It's a Big Ten school, but, obviously it's like a bit of a rivalry. Are you rooting for the Big Ten so they have more of a representation in the final 64? Or no, I see you shaking your head, Ben. You're going the UCLA route, huh?
You cannot pay me enough money to cheer for. I can't do it. I have seen, I have watched him from when he took over Michigan State all the way up in the present. And don't get me wrong, it's great to have a legend in the history and all that stuff. But man, he has just irritated me for the last 25 years, or however long it's been at this point. I lose track of time. But he's just so irritating. The way he milks the officials, the way he just stomps around like a petulant child. I just can't take it, man. So, you cannot get me to cheer for Tom Izzo. I can't do it.
You can't. It's tough because you got that Big Ten aspect, like you're saying. But I always root for chaos. When in doubt, always root for chaos. And chaos would be Purdue locals, students, and fans in Mackey Arena booing Tom Izzo in the NCAA tournament for, their second game with fans all year. You have to play in the arena that you've probably one of his worst records is in Mackey Arena. And you got to go there, and then you got to have to deal with the fans, and it's not even a team you're playing against, right? So that's too funny for me. That's just too funny.
It's a very unique year and very odd that Purdue's the only Indiana team. As a guy that enjoys storylines, certainly feels like Team of Destiny type of stuff. If they were to go on a Butler type run, I wouldn't be upset. But you see here, the venue here at Lucas Oil and the walk-in certainly did a great job. I was very surprised. I was not happy at first when I heard they were playing games at the football stadium, but I guess I didn't realize how the layout was going to be. And as you guys mentioned, there's 2 courts on each side of this stadium, and it was very cool. Even though you're a little further away from the court as I would like, certainly not too many bad seats, and I didn't get to be up top, so I guess I can't speak for those. But what were your guys' thoughts for those of you, you guys, Ben and Corey, I'm not sure if you attended, but I know Dave was there. So Dave, what were your thoughts on how they did Lucas Oil and, all the amenities they had for, the safety and everything?
So safety was great. Everything from the check-in process with your temperature to getting to your seats. Seats that did not have a ticket had the tie strap on it. So that was their way of controlling And then from an usher standpoint, their reminder for the mask regulation was every timeout or at halftime, basically just walking up and down the aisles with a sign saying, keep your mask on unless you're drinking or eating. I would say from a concession standpoint, I think some of those workers were great to be back at work. Great service, happy service, and just a lot of energy. I heard some opposite opinions on the Banker's Life, how things were ran there. So I think they had the A crew over at Lucas Oil. Overall, great aspect. And I'll give you my final take because I've got to sign off. But I'm going to look for the committee to do Boilermaker fans a favor and have them in Lucas Oil. Secondary would be Banker's Life for the first round. And I would say if they advance second round as well, just from the Indiana and ticket aspect. I know they'll never come out and say it, but it just makes sense, especially in this odd year. So I look for that to happen. And then just one thing that might not be known, when all teams advance to the Sweet 16 games will actually only be played at 2 venues in single game sessions. Those are at Hinkle Fieldhouse and at Banker's Life.
Wow.
So that Hinkle Fieldhouse Sweet 16 ticket, those become just some of the hardest golden tickets, whether you're an Illinois fan, maybe a Michigan fan, Purdue fan, and you have your teams advancing. So maybe the committee, has those assigned at Bankers. But from an Elite Eight standpoint, all those are in Lucas Oil, along with the Final Four. It hasn't really been talked about, so I think for listeners today, they'll at least get an education in terms of what's going on there.
Yeah,
And,
it certainly helps. I'm keyed in on that. It's I'm trying my best to get to every game I possibly can too. I'm bloodthirsty now that I'm back. I even went yesterday just to see the semifinal games. But again, you've been I've really enjoyed getting to know you, Dave, the last couple of years here on this Purdue beat. And it was fun to finally meet you again or see you again in person. It's been so long, almost an entire. It was a full entire year of not being with the people, with the fans, and that's what I'm all about. Are the good vibes, and before that Purdue game, kind of hanging out there. Mark Elsner, another photographer of yours from ISC Purdue, does great work. We were all kind of hanging out and certainly enjoying the company, and it's been a while and long overdue. So I'll let you get back to it. You provided great information here today. You were keeping all my ducks in a row. I was doing my best trying to figure out these scenes with the damn pictures, but you were definitely a big help as far as the information here goes and reacting to this live. Like I said, a little bit of a test run this year to see how it goes, but I wanted to invite everybody that I kind of enjoy on the Twitter sphere and of course in person on the Purdue beat. So I'll let you jet, Dave. We'll talk and keep up here real soon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for coordinating. Have a good one.
Of course. And that is David Kovich from ISC Purdue. And this is Brags in the Stands, and we are rocking and rolling along, doing some different things. So, we got some different things in the comments here. My mom is in the comments. Yeah, the workers and the ushers were great. I was gonna bring up to Dave. There was an usher that was dancing in between timeouts at one point, and when they were given, telling the fans to put their masks up, they weren't rude about it. Different fans were running up to, and yesterday I had the opportunity to take this picture here. Let me pull it up. Grant Hill, Jim Nance, and Bill Rafferty in stadium. And, people were running up to them, obviously, and they weren't, being mean to the fans that wanted to say hi, just, reminding them to keep their distance. And it was just an all around good time. Got to meet some new fans. These guys, Michigan fans, really friendly, 2 days in a row, sitting in the same section. And this is just kind of, for me, what I live for as far as going to games. I'm sure you guys are the same way, Corey. We've had discussions on, our love for being at the games and the biggest ones, you being at the biggest game in the history of sports, obviously, for Game 7. But, were either of you able to be in attendance for Ryan Klein's moment, a couple years ago for Purdue?
Yeah, I was at that Sweet 16 game against Tennessee. I was actually living down in Louisville at the time for work temporarily, and I lived probably about 5 blocks away from the stadium. So I went to that game. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the Elite Eight game against Virginia because my nephew, who's actually turning 3 in 2 weekends, I believe. It was his first birthday. So, sports are important to me, but my family would excommunicate me if I were to skip my firstborn nephew, the first time becoming an uncle, first birthday, skipping it for basketball. I would have been hearing about it for a very long time. So,
well, you're a good family man, but what were your memories of Ryan Klein since you were at the Tennessee game? And, this is one of the all-time moments in March Madness history. What were your thoughts witnessing it in person?
It was just unreal what was happening. And I had some phenomenal seats. I was towards the front of the overhang bowl portion of it, so I had some great seats. But this was just one of the all-time. At this point, this is one of the all-time greatest Purdue shooting performances, because you just knew what was going to happen. On the one where I don't know if it's this one coming up here, where he ties it. This one, you just knew he was going to do it, and you knew he was going to make it. And there's just something totally like unreal and surreal about something like that, where just every person in that arena knew what was going to happen before it did. And it was crazy. That was just one of the best live sporting events I've ever seen. Definitely probably the best Purdue basketball game I've seen. So
well, that's what we live for, to go to the games and witness moments like that. We were hoping for a moment there at the end, Purdue valiantly coming back down 18. It was great. And, a little special announcement here before we bring on our next guest who just hopped into the backstage. Ryan Klein will be joining Braggs in the Stands this coming week here before the Purdue game. Going to do a pregame show for March Madness, and who better to talk about the March Madness than the man that had the moment himself. So that was a cool recollection of the story of what Ryan Klein did. And, that's what's up for grabs for this team and these players individually. It can be anybody that has this moment. As much as I root for my guy Sasha, it could be Aaron Wheeler. As I loved his story this year, revitalized, had all of Purdue fans, giving him a hard time for his struggles, and look at how he's been able to blossom into his role. He could be the one that has the knockdown moment, and I'm rooting for all of them to have it, and obviously Purdue to have big success in the tournament as they made it as a 4 seed, 20th ranked in the nation as the season ended, and 4th in the Big Ten. Talk about exceeding expectations. But as I say to all Purdue fans who want to talk about next year, screw next year. All right. It's about this year. Next year will be fine, but let's leave it where it is. It's next year. The Boilers got business to do this year. So without further ado, I want to bring on here my next guest who has been on, and don't worry guys, I'm just putting you backstage for a second, but I want to give this guy a proper introduction. My guy, Brian Tonsoni, and let me get my stupid cameras in a row, reappearing here on Braggs in the Stands. He's the host of Assembly Call, and he does great work, with Delphi bracketology, as far as they break down the brackets week to week, predicting who will be in the tournament. So Brian, I got to start there. How did you guys do over at Delphi predicting this year's bracket?
Well, first of all, Greg, it's great to be on the show, man. I love your show, and I can't wait to be on it. So thanks for having me. I'll just be on for a little bit. We have it's wild over here because we have pizza and the guys over here. We did really well. We have our best score ever. We started this in 2015. We had 53 of the 68 seeds exactly correct. We missed we missed one. We had Louisville in and Wichita State out, so we were 67 of 68. But the scoring on this competition, you get more points for being exactly correct. we had 62 of the 68 either correct or one seed line off. So we're celebrating here as much as you can with the high school kids. So we're eating brownies and pizza and water and Gatorade.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
When they leave, I'm going to celebrate a little differently.
There you go. Well, congratulations. And
thank you.
I know they do rankings because you guys are there's a lot of different bracketologists out there, and you're my favorite, obviously. So one year, I believe you said last time you were on, you guys ranked first overall. So do you know how you've ranked this year?
The first year we won the whole thing. We beat everyone who sent in a bracket, and they track ESPN, CBS, all of those, and we were the number one in the nation. And then the last 2 years after that, we were in the top 15. And then 2019, we had a tough year and fell below the average. So right now we rank as the 13th overall bracketologist in the country out of about 250 or so that send in their brackets to bracketmatrix.com. With the 369, I don't know that that'll be good enough to win it all, but that'll put us in pretty good standings, I think, in comparison to everyone else. That's our top score ever that we had, if that's official. These are unofficial counts, so it'll be official early this week.
Well, that's awesome, and you do a lot of great work. I recommend anybody that's watching to follow Delphi Bracketology on Twitter. They do amazing work. It's a lot of fun, and obviously you're a great host on a great IU basketball podcast. No hate here. Obviously it's easier for us to be nice because Purdue's doing well, but you do a great job on Assembly Call.
Thank you.
I always try
Tough
to
times
tune
these
in.
days doing post-game shows,
I've been tuning in a few times here and there. But, it certainly sounds like a therapy session you guys are going through. And I worry for you with the announcement of where Purdue plays, because I have this weird feeling they're going to put them at at Assembly Hall just to twist the knife one more time on you guys. Do you think that could be something that is the final nail in Archie Miller's coffin, or is that a little too much pomp and circumstance that I'm making more out of than it is?
For your listeners, I'm also a high school basketball coach, so I got to tread safely in calling for firings and all of that. I can talk about, Chicago Bears and the Cubs and all of that a little more freely as that. But
sure.
Archie's in difficult times. You go 4 years and things haven't gotten better. And, sometimes really good coaches just run into a buzzsaw and depending on where you're at. And I think that's kind of happening. At the best, he's going to get another year to fix it. At worst, the athletic department will let him go. But when you're 12 and 15 at Indiana, there's some reckoning. That's just honest truth. And so I think there's going to be some decisions made in this year or next year real soon on the coaching front. And all I want is Indiana to be competitive again and get back to playing. I think you Purdue fans would like to see it too, because, you like beating us, but it has to be competitive,
Yes, I agree. I honestly, because I've been, me, I'm the Sasha guy. I'm a big fan of his. Watched every dribble in high school, so I want him to stay undefeated against your boys, and they were able to do that the last time you were there. But I have to admit, Brian, watching the game, I honestly, and this might sound even worse, but I felt bad because it was like it really wasn't competitive. You guys had a couple injuries that helped that. But just the lack of shooting on the outside that I'm just not used to seeing with IU, it's non-existent. It's honestly kind of not believable.
Yeah, it's bad. The program right now is in a very big struggle, fundamentally, team-wise, confidence-wise. It can't be denied. There's no defending that. I think the kids play hard, and I'm always a pro athlete too. These guys work hard. They don't intend to lose, but it's bad. Bad decision making, and a lot of teams that you watch in this tournament coming up, and your Purdue Boilermakers, they just play with a little more freedom and play a little more relaxed, and so it's a bad situation down there. But we got the tournament, So
that's
now
right.
I'm not gonna take on your Boilers, because as you see in the background, there's just way too much IU stuff in the background. But I'm gonna probably adopt Illinois, the masked man. Maybe Cade Cunningham I'll root for. So I got to find some teams to root for. So
Yeah, the masked man is certainly impressive. I watched him yesterday. He's got the Batman mask on it. If I wasn't so in on Purdue, they certainly are fun to root for. I'll be picking them far to go in the brackets, and as Corey and Ben jump into the conversation, and we appreciate you jumping into the Lions Den. You're surrounded by Purdue fans here. But Brian, what do you think? We do have a lot of Illinois viewers, being that this is a big Chicago Bears show and Chicago sports show in general. Where do you think Illinois' chances are at making a national championship? I won't even ask you about the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 because, in my opinion, they look like a lock to get that deep. Do you think they are legitimate national title contenders, and can they take down a team like Gonzaga?
I believe so. I just think they're the real deal. They got guards. They got a closer in Io, and then they got the big guy, Kofi. You just got a bunch of guys that do the right things, and the way they played the last month or so has just been dominating. So, yeah, but in the bracket, they got to run up against Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State, which is another team that can beat anybody, as they just beat Baylor themselves. So that Sweet 16 matchup potentially of Illinois and Oklahoma State is going to be prime time watching. I mean, that's get your beverages and watch that. That's going to be really solid. But yeah, I think Illinois, and there might have been a few futures wagered by someone, myself, on Illinois winning the championship. So I think they're very solid.
Yes,
I think the Boilermakers got a nice draw too, with Villanova at the 5 to at least get to the Sweet 16, and then you got to give a chance. If you're going to be good, you got to beat number 1 at some point. So I think Purdue got a really good selection as well.
I feel like Purdue is Illinois of last year. I felt like Illinois had a chance to make noise last year as the young up-and-coming team that maybe not everyone knew about, but they had all the tools. And then, of course, the tournament never happened. And now this year, yeah, I agree. I think Illinois has a chance to go deep. A nice little interesting wrinkle there with Oklahoma State, as you pointed out, playing some good basketball of late. So that'll be a interesting Sweet 16 matchup for our boy Chubbs. But you're kind of the perfect guy to ask, as someone that follows these seedings so closely. And everybody wants to know, because everybody wants to look like the genius in their first rounds. Who are some of these upsets, Cinderella teams that you're looking at? Is there any team that you have earmarked here, or a couple even? Not to give away your secret sauce if any of your people you're facing in your family bracket are watching.
There were a lot of 8 or 9 seeds that we had higher, which means, I don't think the 8 or 9s can beat the 1s, but we had Oklahoma as a 7. We had Missouri as a 6. One of those two teams is going to play Gonzaga, and I think that's unfair to Gonzaga to play a team. I think those two were really misseeded. Baylor's got North Carolina and Wisconsin. I think Baylor should win those, but those aren't easy 8-9 games. So those are some games that I'm going to be watching there as well. The Big 12. Watch for a Texas Tech to make a run. Maybe they're just well groomed and playing people really tough, and it's always teams that have special players. I think UConn with Book Knight has a chance at the 7 seed to maybe beat an Alabama, beat a Texas, and go somewhere too. So I like UConn as a sleeper. Quick, I mean, I've just looked at this real quick, and maybe in this year a surprise 8 or 9 beat someone that they're not supposed to, because there's some really good 8-9 teams.
And how about Loyola Chicago potentially taking on Illinois in that second round matchup? That would certainly be interesting. Nonetheless, with the Chicago clash there.
That'll be great.
Illinois clash. Certainly interesting. How about you, and Ben and Corey, to bring you back here into the conversation? We're talking about some of the Cinderella teams. Do you guys have any game or team that you've earmarked? I know the brackets just came out, but has there been any team that you've been keeping your eye on? I'll start with you, Corey.
I think the two that stick out in my mind, I think LSU and Michigan. I talked about it before, and Dave talked about it. LSU's pace. LSU ran with Alabama, Michigan. There's a question about livers, so that'll be an interesting one. Syracuse, the perennial bubble team, has done well in the past as an 11 seed. That zone tricks some teams up, so I'm liking some Syracuse, just historically, and one thing that kind of happens, it doesn't happen every year, but it happened with Purdue. The Carson Edwards game, the Ryan Klein game. The stars come out of the woodwork, right? And it's sometimes the stars that are the ones that just will a team to the win. So the Cade Cunninghams, I forgot the kid who's at USC. He's a freshman. I think he was the Mobley. Yeah, he's he might be one of those guys that could bring USC far. So I like the teams that they got some good matchups, but then some of the teams that got some stars that can lead them. Michigan State. Michigan State can beat the best teams in the country, right? We saw that. So don't be surprised. I think the last time Syracuse was an 11 seed in 18, they came out of the first 4 too and went to the Sweet 16. So it could come from anywhere. I am a big fan of the Power 5 teams that are low seeds, just because they play the tough competition all the time. So
right.
There's some good players. There's some good players. Ohio has that Preston kid, and they play a Virginia team that's been up and down. That's a 13-4 matchup to watch. Oral Roberts has a kid that's, I think, one of the top scorers in the land, playing 15 in Ohio State's defense. They played well and got to the tournament, but sometimes they don't guard as well. And you get a hot scorer. That could be one of those games, too, that kind of shock you from the seeding standpoint.
Absolutely. And here's my perspective on things. For every Cinderella team that you have to have a decent team get upset by them, right? So if you look at the inverse, the transitive property of all of this is, what are the good teams and what can cause them to lose? Okay, we've seen Michigan. They're without Livers. He's that glue guy for that team. See, the type of person that keeps things together, calming influence, and make sure things work. Look at a team like Iowa. We've all seen these teams. Iowa all of a sudden, has lately played a little bit of defense, but historically cannot play defense. You get a hot shooting team, they can take that team down. Look at Ohio State. Even though I said earlier, they are a team that has definitely impressed me with their run in the Big Ten tournament and looked really sharp doing so. You got to keep in mind, they blew an 18-point lead against Purdue. They blew, 15-point lead yesterday and just barely hung on. So there are flaws with all of these teams. This is the one year where I'm not looking at any team right now and saying that, they're unbeatable. There is not one team out there right now. Every team has their flaws, and I think in order for this to work, they should, that's how upsets happen. Good teams have flaws, and then somebody can exploit them.
Yeah, Illinois and Gonzaga certainly look like maybe the upper echelon, but anything can happen, certainly. Do you guys think, and Brian, I'll start with you, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you got to get back to the family, but do you think that there's anything to Illinois exerting so much energy this weekend? I know it's an extra day of rest with the start of the tournament, but, you've seen it work both ways. Kemba won his conference tournament, ran all the way to the national championship and did the exact same. But then you'll see other teams win their tournament, conference tournament, and then get upset in the second round. Do you think Illinois is in trouble of that kind of fatigue factor or whatever that is when you win a conference championship? Is that something that Illinois fans should be concerned about, or are you taking the Big Ten championship?
No, I'm taking the Big Ten championship. I think the NCAA tournament's more about matchups. And that hot player, that, a team that plays zone and you're not used to it, or you win first round and they have to play a team that plays something exotic defense and you just have a bad run. It's more about matchups and players than it is tired versus not tired. These guys have been through the ringer with daily testing and not being with people, their family and everything. And they play AAU basketball where they play 2 or 3 games, sometimes. Now it's not that high pressure situation, but I don't think having extended trips really is a big bother. So hey, with that, I'm going to sign off. I still have our Delphi bracketology kids here. We're celebrating and having pizza.
Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate
I wanted to come on and say hello and keep in contact. I love being on your show. You do a great job, and I wish you guys good luck with your Purdue stuff. I know it's a big time of the year, and have fun with that. So thanks again for having me on. If you need anything, let me know.
Of course, man. You're all class. You're a good friend, and I cannot wait to share that drink with you at Wrigley Field here this summer, my friend. It's going to happen.
Let's go Cubs.
We're going to get it done. So,
Let's go.
Jock Peterson will have 45 home runs, and we'll be enjoying ourselves in our lives back to normalcy. So enjoy your time with the Delphi gang. Tell all of them I said thanks and hello.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
All right, Brian Tonsoni from Delphi Bracketology. We won't go too much longer here. This has been a lot of fun, very informative. You guys have all brought it. I invited 7 people on. Everybody couldn't make it, and I kind of told everybody, it was last minute. Thought Purdue might make it to Sunday, and we wouldn't be doing this show, but we kind of threw it all together, and I think it's gone really well. But I do have a couple more videos here to share along. So I do have one I thought I put in here, but I guess I might not have. I thought I had the fight here. Yes, I do. So I want to get your take here on Juwan Howard setting off the Big Ten tournament on Friday. Here's the video for you. Oh, wait, that's not it. What am I doing? There he goes. Into the tunnel he goes. Juwan Howard, the pride of Chicago, Illinois. I like that final little switch back to the court like he was going to go after him. What were your thoughts there with Juwan Howard starting something?
I don't know if I've ever seen 2 coaches go at each other like that before. It was kind of surprising, but it sounds like from
almost.
Yeah, it really was. It didn't get physical, but it's a lot of holding people back and stuff, and a lot of words exchanged. It sounded like in the post-game presser, Turgeon said that there'd been stuff in the previous 2 games about trash talk or something like that. So I don't know what it was, but it's Warren said they handled it. There are some people that are like, you shouldn't be coaching and stuff and whatnot. I'm like, stuff gets hot, right? They're all adults. They'll figure it out eventually, right? There was nothing bad happen. It was just people lunging at each other,
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he'd be suspended for like the extra aggression that you normally don't see out of a coach, but he's a former player who's probably been in his fair share of basketball fights, certainly in the 90s when basketball was played in a different way than it is today. Although I do think the Big Ten certainly plays a tough brand of basketball like we were used to seeing growing up, but it was funny. Ben, what were your thoughts with Juwan Howard? How do you think Mark Turgeon would have handled that fight?
Well, I think it would have been a little one-sided. Now, I was at work when this game was happening, doing my day job, so I didn't have a chance to see it live, but I saw some videos after the fact, and I'm kind of conflicted about this whole thing. It's nice to see some passion. It's nice to see some aggressiveness come out there. That old Gene Katie, Bob Knight fire that you saw, But one thing they didn't do was try to, beat each other's ass on the sidelines. That's not something that actually happened, at least as far as I remember in my 30-whatever years on God's earth. So here's my thought process. If you're Juwan Howard, okay, I appreciate the fact that you got passion, you want to do this, but the bottom line is you can play this card one time. And he just pulled it. He just pulled that in the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament in his second year. You start pulling that card a second time, you got problems. Michigan's not going to allow him to keep doing that sort of stuff. Now, hey, I've been in situations where I've let my temper get the best of me. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say I'm above it. I was an athlete as well for a while. But come on, man. You're the face of that program. You got to be able to keep yourself pretty cool. In fairness, though, how much of it was an act? He obviously wasn't trying too hard to get to Turgeon.
Right.
He's a physical specimen. He could have easily gotten there, in my opinion. So maybe he was trying just to motivate his players. And it worked.
Yeah. I agree. I thought there was an element to that because the game was a little bit out of reach at the point he did it. So I thought maybe he was just trying to inspire his troops a little further, show that he's a team guy. Michigan's bench was really riled up from it. Maryland's bench, honestly, was really riled up from it. It was unique. You just don't see that often. It was, it was just a crazy day. It was a lot of fun. The guy sitting right in front of me, there he is, Captain Boiler. I don't know how familiar you guys are with this guy. A paint crew legend sitting in front of me at the game. He had his hat on his knee. And I was like, this has got to be the captain. And so I looked up his Twitter account. And for whatever reason, I wasn't following him, but I'm pretty sure on my previous account I was. So I hit the follow button. And me and my buddy are sitting there. And then his phone goes off. And he looks at it. And it's like brags. He's like, look at it. I go, hey, what's up? I just followed you. And I'll tell you what, this guy, he couldn't have been nicer. He's from Denver, Colorado. Really good dude. Really, really big Purdue fan, obviously. Graduated a couple of years ago, but that was kind of the scene at Banker's Life. It was a lot of fun, but I'm looking for more of these scenes, boys. We need, I want to see these juniors who got to watch Carson and Grady and Klein. You see Eric there in the background. I want them to have their moment. Obviously, these freshmen have had a lot to do with it here too, but, I always appreciate the journey, and you see these guys there on the sideline, and I just love the system Painter has built here and how each team kind of seems to succeed each other. What are you guys' thoughts with this season we've seen quickly? I don't want to take up too much more of your time, let you guys go back to enjoying your Sundays now that we've gotten through this, but what is your guys' thoughts with this evolution of this team between the juniors kind of evolving into the leaders and these freshmen blossoming in the way that they have? Truly has been remarkable. I'll start with you, Corey.
Yeah, so obviously expectations weren't as high as they are now, right? I think a lot of people pegged Purdue for maybe one of those teams playing on Wednesday in the Big Ten tournament and ended up being a team that was playing on Friday in the Big Ten tournament. And a lot of it has to do with the freshman class, right? The freshman class has been phenomenal. Edie, was a kind of a wild card, almost bit of a recruit. Just being a reclassified, he's still should be in high school right now. I believe he's a year early, so he's still developing. But to be that tall and have limbs that long, like I'm 6'4", I can't imagine being 7'4", and to be able to coordinate yourself like that has been incredible. So part of that's him. Jaden Ivey is, you could see in his recruiting footage that he was going to be one of those next level guys. He's kind of got that it factor. And Painter's just letting him go, right? He's doing stuff like he's doing crazy stuff like this, right? And then sometimes he'll take some bad shots. But this is where we're talking about the system he's building on the past. Matt Painter can coach a guy like Jaden Ivey because he's coached Carson Edwards before. They're very much cut from the same mental cloth, where they are just in the zone, supreme athlete coming at you, and coaching guys like that isn't always the easiest, and letting them develop and not hampering their development is honestly one of the biggest thing you can do with someone who's just extremely talented, right? Just kind of guide instead of coach, right?
Yep.
There's a bit of a difference, right? You got to coach them up to get them to play smart, but you just got to guide them on that path there.
Man, you nail it there, Corey, because when I was watching this team early on, I text some different people I know, and I'd be laughing about Jaden and Brandon, and when they'd come in, how excited they were to play, how amped they were to get their shots up. And I was sitting there like, man, Painter's going to have so many gray hairs by the end of this year. He's going to go crazy. And, you know, this trial by fire has worked. And what I wasn't anticipating was Painter's patience with freshmen after watching him with these other teams. And this is my first few years really dialed into Purdue basketball and what Matt Painter does really individually with players. But I wasn't expecting him to be like, handle them the way you did. As you said, don't coach, just guide. And he's kind of let this offense kind of come to him as a coach, and Ivy finds his way into the starting lineup. And all those extra minutes he's gotten has actually gotten Ivy to play less forceful. You know, he is sharing the ball more, seeing the court. You know, I thought in the first half they were kind of letting him get to him a little bit, but for the most part here in the second half of the season, he's more under control than he ever was with the limited minutes. So I thought you nailed that there, Corey. Ben, to the juniors, you know, Corey touched on the freshmen, and obviously we could talk for 2 hours about how incredible Jaden Ivey, Zach Edey, and even Mason Gillis and you know, obviously Brandon Newman from the Valparaiso, your hometown. They're all killing it. But, you know, how about these juniors? You know, as we showed, they were the ones that were on this journey a couple years ago, fell short against the Elite Eight. You know, but man, Travion, you saw him yesterday or 2 days ago, carrying these guys in the second half, the way he carried this team before, you know, the freshmen really started to blossom. You know, what do you think of this junior class and what they've done to help lead this team?
Well, what I think with anything in the world, whether it be your family, whether it be your work, whether it be a football team, basketball team, whatever it is, everything is a puzzle. You need to put that puzzle together. Your leaders are those outside pieces of the puzzle, right? The ones that kind of give you that framework. And you need to sprinkle in those players that go and fill out your full image, which could be a Big Ten championship team. It could be an Elite Eight team, a Final Four team, and things like that. So follow along the lines of Travion Williams, who's been a really solid player for his entire career here. He even put in a lot of minutes as freshman and spelled you know, the Haas and Harmses of the world. You've got people like Sasha Stefanovic, who has been a dead-eye shooter and had to pay his dues playing behind Klein. He's shown it even on the defensive end that he's willing to hustle. He's willing to go after these things. And then you've got someone like Eric Hunter, who's been a steady hand, a quiet 15-point-a-game type guy. All of a sudden you look up and you go, man, he's got 15 points. It's the quietest 15 points I've ever seen in my life. And you've got all of these players that are feeding in and taking care of things. But let's not forget about Aaron Wheeler. Aaron Wheeler was a situation where he was a star as a freshman. He had a lot of upside, a lot of offensive firepower behind it, and he went into a little bit of a slump. But you know what he's kept doing? He's kept rebounding. He's kept playing defense. He's kept positive. He's kept hustling. Mistakes happen here and there for sure. But you know what? The more he kept working with his positive attitude that he's been showing, all of a sudden now he's been a key cog in some of the past 5-6 victories that Purdue's had. Again, these older players, they're the border pieces of these teams. You throw everything else out in the middle, and this could be a really special circumstance this season, next season, you know, and depending on how things go with this extra year of eligibility going in the future.
Yeah, and like I said, I love that it could be Villanova again in the second round. That's familiarity is so key, and you're getting so many elements of it for this team. They're going to be in their home state, potentially on a court they've played it at before this season against teams they've beaten in the tournament just a couple years ago. You can't ask for, and then you just talk about the different, advantages. Like you said, Villanova has a couple different injuries. Baylor may not be the best 1 seed of the 4, so I'm really enjoying this draw, trying not to jinx it and blow all this smoke, because that's when it comes back to haunt. I think any of us as Bears or Cub fans would know that. I'm not sure which aisle of the lines you fall on with the football and baseball affiliations, but I know better than to jinx it. I'm still trying to get my guy Russell here to Chicago. We got a lot of work. There's a lot of things I'm stressing about here over at the Bragg's residence. But first and foremost is getting tickets to next weekend's games, because I'm going to be there. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to make a trip. I certainly hope you guys are able to, because I'd love to be able to meet you guys in person finally here. man, it's been a lot of fun here. This has been a good breakdown. We really, I thought was a lot of fun. The reaction was kind of, winging it, and then it went to overtime in the Big Ten tournament. Illinois wins it. What a comeback by Ohio State. I kind of jinxed it on Twitter saying it was going to be a blowout, and I gave the old Twitter hijinks, but fitting because the Big Ten has been as competitive as I've ever seen it. Statistically, maybe the best Big Ten season ever. And then you've got the fact that there's 4 top 10 teams, 5 top 20, 9 teams. I was getting in a couple arguments with a guy from Tyler Aki from ESPN 1000 telling me the Big 12 is better than the Big 10. Well, 9 is better than 7 last by my count, and that's how many teams made the tournament here from the Big Ten conference, but I digress. So again, it's been a lot of fun here breaking all this down, reacting to it. Again, I got Ryan Klein here coming up here in a couple days. So I'm going to cut you both loose here and wrap this baby up. So Corey, you've been, this is your second appearance here on my podcast, but first ever on Brags in the Stands. And I don't want you to be a stranger. We'll have to bring you on when we get baseball rock and rolling, or maybe even if Purdue can go deeper into this tournament, we can have another roundtable discussion of a final 4 roundtable discussion. Wouldn't that be nice? So
absolutely.
Any final words before we officially cut you loose here, Corey?
Best few days of the year right now. This is the time of the year where you could justify owning 4 televisions and putting them in the same room. So it's good. Work productivity hits a year-long low this week. It should be a good one. I'm excited. Thursday and Friday should be good. Looking forward to that MSU UCLA game, and I'm hoping that's at Maggie. That'll be a fun storyline to track. But should be a good month of March. And in the words of John Rothstein, we sleep in May.
We sleep in May. Well said, Corey, and we'll catch up with you here real soon from ISC Purdue. That is Corey Ross, and we started with 2, and we're going to finish here with 2. Ben Kolodzinski, another a fellow region rat,
yes,
as
sir.
we affectionately call ourselves here in Northwest Indiana, the region.
Yes.
Ben, your final thoughts here for the listening and viewing audience that's been hanging out here with us.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate it. We can do more of this. I think Purdue got a really good draw, and I think that there's some opportunity to make some noise here. But, as much as we have talked about March Madness and gone forward, I being a Valparaiso guy and you being a Crown Point guy, I want to make a proposition for you.
I like it.
You, Spike, and Sasha versus me, Hummel, and Newman here in a 3-on-3 game sometime in the offseason.
Oh, no.
Let those guys do the actual work. You and I sit in the stands and make our commentary about it. But I think that'd be a lot of fun. But, obviously that probably won't work out. But I just think it'd be a fun little thing. But thanks for having me.
Maybe we'll get it set up one day. I am not as flight of foot as I once was. With Jenny, my wife, has been begging me to get us back to the gym here. We keep saying it's the next week diet workout, but we are getting ready to start it. So maybe I might be in better shape to hold my own. But you might be right. We might be better served just being on the sidelines for it and not embarrassing. But I think they'd probably prefer if we embarrass ourselves in front of them. I might be able to facilitate it, honestly, because we got a court at the Sports Medical Institute. My good buddy Kevin Devine actually trains some of these guys, a lot of the players in the region, including Sasha Stefanovic and many other high school and college athletes in the area and around. So maybe we'll get him to set it up. He'll have a funny story for you one time when I played one-on-one with Kevin and my post-up techniques, but I'll leave that story for another day. It involves bubble guts. I'll just leave it at that. Tell you what, that's one way to get space when you need to get to the rim. So maybe that's a good place to end it here on Brags in the Stands. Always never a dull moment here. But again, Ben, really appreciate it. First time we've been able to talk like this face to face, the most face to face we can get here in this crazy pandemic. So I hope to see you in person here real soon as Purdue makes their journey Yes, sir. Yeah, you've been really great today. So all you guys at ISC Purdue do a great job. You guys, this is some of the pictures they do, and there's Sasha reacting to Tommy Luch, but with the big time shot against Iowa, and you guys do a lot of great written coverage. Ben, you're going to have an article coming out, correct? Talking about whether or not how good or bad this experience at the Big Ten tournament was for Purdue, correct, Ben?
Yeah, we'll highlight my spot tomorrow. It normally comes out midday tomorrow. On the Monday following the sports week, and I'm going to really highlight what ifs, why nots, whys. Is this Purdue's time? Some of the things we've already highlighted here. I like to have fun with these pieces. If you haven't had an opportunity to read them, I do it once a week, and who knows, maybe Purdue.
Well, why don't you tell the viewers too where to find all this stuff in case I wasn't getting all that exactly correct?
Okay. Absolutely. You can follow us on ISC_Purdue, ISC_PU on Twitter. Or follow me. I retweet these. I post my thing, or IndianaSportsCoverage.com, and then go to the Purdue section where our articles are at. And we can we love doing our own little different perspective on things, and for my readers that we've had out there, I do have my interesting perspectives. I'm a little bit different. I'm big on the eye test, less on the analytics, because there's something to be said about that gut instinct, about that feel. I try to make it a little bit of a work of art, a little bit of fun, a little bit of comedy. Try to throw it in there, and sometimes my jokes land. Most of the time they don't. Definitely something that I like to have fun with, and we really enjoy that local perspective, that positive vibe. And we've got Kobe Lukabaugh, who's our basketball writer, Corey Ross, who's our football guy, Dave Kovich is who we saw earlier. He's our editor, and we have a handful of other folks that kind of chip in, help out, as well as our talented photographers. We really like making sure that we can have our own unique coverage of Purdue.
Well, you guys certainly do a great job, and you're really friendly. You guys have always been really good to me in the years that I've jumped on the scene here on the Purdue beat and storming around Mackey Arena. You guys have been a lot of fun, and I appreciate that. And your jokes land. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So that's my approach when it comes to jokes. And when it comes to looking at a unique perspective at sports, that's what I'm all about here at Brags in the Stands. The fans' perspective, try to do a little positive spin and have a little fun. You guys are in my wheelhouse when it comes to that. So certainly going to be bringing you guys here on more and more here on Brags in the Stands. But I appreciate your first ever appearance here today. So again, thank you, man. Yeah, of course. So we'll catch up here real soon. That is Ben Kolodzinski from ISC Purdue. And this is it. This is Brags in the Stands, the reaction show to the bracket reveal. A lot of fun today. Covered a lot of different stuff, and I'm looking forward to finding out where and when Purdue will play. We know who now. They're going to have to play here as let me get my Purdue region up. They have North Texas on Friday, and they'll play the winner of Villanova Winthrop. And you're seeing there that Winthrop is 23-1, going up against a team that is 16-6, Villanova. That, as you heard today, pointed out by our Purdue experts, that Villanova has a couple guys that are injured. So maybe an upset in the making there. And then on the top side of that bracket, you have North Carolina, Wisconsin, two very talented teams that could go up against Baylor in the second round. Certainly a game to keep your eye on there. So I love the draw, but Purdue's got to take care of their business in the first round, and I believe that they will. But, hey, first things first, let's see it happen, and then we'll react to it. But certainly excited for it. Again, I want to thank Bobby Buckets for coming on last week. Early in the week on Monday, we had Sasha Stefanovic and Bobby Buckets on for a great interview where Bobby and Sasha traded basketball stories for almost an hour. It was really, really fun. For those of you that haven't had a chance to see that, I highly encourage you to go check that out. As for any college basketball fan, let alone a Purdue fan, some of the stories were as good as it gets. Really, really good stuff. And a little teaser to be on the lookout here for Brags in the Stands this week. Sometime this week, me and Ryan Klein are going to come up with a day and a time, whether it be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night, We're going to have Ryan Klein here on Brags in the Stands for a March Madness tournament preview. That's going to be a lot of fun. Certainly looking forward to having him on, picking his brain about these young Boilers and seeing what his thoughts are on maybe their tournament success, because, obviously, as we showed earlier, he had one of the all-time great moments in Purdue and college basketball history. But we're looking for these young bucks that were once sitting on the sideline for great moments, and now they're going to be the ones, trying to get moments for themselves here. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing them getting that done. This is a special team. It's been a special season. A lot of guys thought they wouldn't make the tournament, couldn't compete in the Big Ten. Not only did they compete, they were top 4. They finished 13-6. Wisconsin last year won the Big Ten at 14-6. And as Matt Painter called it, it was a championship effort. And then when you consider the 18-point comeback that this team had, at Lucas Oil in Indianapolis on Friday, to be down 18 against a talented team like Ohio State, certainly nothing to hang their hat about. And I think that is a prelude of some really good things to come here in the next week or so. So I don't want to jinx it again, but I've said enough to already jinx it, I guess. But this team's beyond jinxing. They're very talented, and I'm excited to see, what time on Friday and where, so I can get my ideas in order for how I'm going to get there and how I'm going to get in the game. And I hope for all you watching that you're going to be there as well. And if you do, come say hi. I'll probably be with my good old mom, just as big a sports fan as me. The reason I am as avid a sports fan as I am is because my mother, Barb, certainly taught me about passion of our beloved sports teams, and Purdue is certainly that. So again, want to thank my guys, David Kovich, you see him there, for coming on, and all the guys at ISC Purdue. Certainly was a lot of fun. Now we have this bracket filled out. You see on the JW Marriott down in Indianapolis, they're going to start filling this thing out. It'll be cool to see that kind of evolve. And, the Braggs family's big fans of Purdue, and we're rooting them on, and we're hoping we can get a deep run. We keep having fun with this coverage. So again, thank you to all that tuned in today and hung out. If you're watching this later, enjoy, get the bracket in front of you. I thought there was some really good information from all these guys. Want to thank my guest, Brian Tonsoni from Assembly Call and Delphi Bracketology, one of the smartest bracket guys I know, and a great IU fan. Show him some love, even if he's an IU guy. He's a class act and a really good guy. Make sure you give him a follow at Sony42 on Twitter. And want to thank the ISC Purdue boys, Ben Kolodzinski, David Kovich, and of course, Corey Ross, making his reappearance here on my podcast. I appreciate all you guys. You guys brought it. Certainly was a lot of fun, and wasn't sure how it was going to go. Hopefully it wasn't too chaotic for the viewers, trying to get all my ducks in a row and bring you as good a content as we possibly can here on Brags in the Stands. But before I go, I always want to make sure I hit up my guy, Brian Potter. Normally I do it in the middle of the show, but we were rocking and rolling along, so I apologize. Wasn't able to really get it fit in, but we are going to get it in now. And even though I don't have music, I'm going to make it flow very well. So this March Madness Bracket Reveal Show was brought to you by Fanbags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs, or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with Fanbags Cornhole. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're getting your boards and bags from my guy Brian Potter at fanbagscornhole.com, and you can get them here at this .com address. And it's getting to be springtime, summertime coming up, and these are truly professional boards. If you watch any cornhole beanbag tournaments on ESPN, you'll see his equipment and apparel being worn by the players and being used, the bags. He's a professional circuit, distributor. Really, really top line stuff if you're into playing beanbags, and I certainly am. I'll take down anybody watching. That includes you, Chubb. So a lot of fun today. Again, thank you to all the viewers. Thank you to all my guests. That wraps things up. Make sure you keep it locked. Find out for announcements here later in the week as far as when the Ryan Klein interview will be, but it is coming up fast and furious, and so is the March Madness tournament next Friday. We are finally going to get to see the Boilers take on North Texas. I cannot wait. It's so exciting, and we're looking for some big-time moments. So, certainly had some fun ones the other day. You saw at the beginning of the show, Travion Williams, doing everything he could to bring the team back the other day. We're going to need valiant efforts from all the guys to move on deep into this tournament. So that wraps things up here today. Brags in the stands. Really enjoyed the show. Again, thank you to all. We will catch up with you here real soon and talk to you soon. Later, guys.